All right, let's talk about AI in UK banking. It's not just some future tech anymore. It's completely rewriting the rules of the game, like right now. And it's happening way faster than anyone really expected. The money involved? Well, it's pretty staggering. So let's dive in.
Okay, I want to start with just one number, over 100 million pounds. Now, you might be thinking that's the total investment, right? Or maybe the cost of some big new system. Nope, it's actually way more significant than that.
That's how much value just one UK bank, Lloyds Banking Group, expects to get from next-generation AI this year alone. Think about that. When one piece of tech can generate that kind of cash for one company, it really makes you wonder, who's in charge here? How is this incredibly powerful force actually being managed and, controlled?
So to figure that out, we've got to start at the very top. We need to look at the rules of the road that are being laid down for the entire financial system.
And at the top, you've got the Bank of England. Now, these guys are responsible for keeping the UK's entire financial system stable. They oversee something like 1,330 different firms. So when a new technology like AI comes along, their main job isn't to figure out how to make more money with it. No, their number one goal is to make sure it's rolled out safely and responsibly.
Their whole philosophy can be summed up in this one phrase: technology agnostic, but not technology blind. And that's a really important distinction. What it means is they're not going to go around banning specific technologies or tools. Instead, they're laser-focused on the risks that those tools could create. See the difference? It's all about managing the outcome, not getting bogged down in micromanaging the tech. And this is basically the foundation for how they manage that risk. The UK government has laid out these 5 core principles that every regulator has to follow. It's the whole shebang: safety, security, being transparent, fairness, and this one's a biggie: clear accountability. You can think of this as the national blueprint for how to handle AI.
Okay, so that's the high-level theory, right? The big ideas from the top. But how does a huge bank actually take these, pretty abstract principles and turn them into something real for their employees, day in and day out? Let's get practical and see how it actually works.
So now we're going to shift gears. We're moving from the regulator down to the ones being regulated. And we'll use HSBC as our example to see how a massive global bank builds its very own ethical framework. You know how a sports team has a playbook? Well, it's kind of the same idea. Banks like HSBC create their own internal principles for using AI. And this step is absolutely crucial. Why? Because those government principles we just talked about are, they're pretty high level. A bank has to take a big concept like fairness and figure out what that actually means in terms of specific code and data practices. This goes way beyond just following the law. It's about baking their own corporate values right into the technology. And you can totally see the connection. One of HSBC's core principles is to be responsible for AI and establish clear accountability. Sound familiar? It should. It's a direct echo of that 4th principle from the government. This is really where the rubber meets the road, taking that big national rule and turning into a concrete internal command for everyone, right alongside other super important goals like stamping out bias and protecting privacy from the get-go.
All right, so we've got the regulations from the top. We've got the ethical playbook from the bank in the middle. Now for the fun part. Let's look at the result. How does all this planning and principle setting actually translate into real-world tools and, well, actual money?
This quote here from the COO at Lloyds pretty much says it all. He says AI isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea anymore. It is on the ground, delivering real, tangible results for the business, for the employees, and for customers. The opportunity here is it's undeniable.
And here's what that value looks like in hard numbers. In 2025, Lloyds brought in about 50 million pounds just from generative AI, the kind of AI that can create new stuff. And this year, they expect to more than double that. We're talking over 100 million. Now, those are the kinds of numbers that make everyone in the boardroom sit up and pay attention, and it just fuels even faster adoption.
So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, it looks like a tool called Athena. It's an internal assistant that helps 20,000 employees find answers, and it cuts their search time by a whopping 2/3. Or it looks like GitHub Copilot, which helps 5,000 of their engineers write code 50% more effectively. And then there's an AI HR assistant that gets it right on the first try for 9 out of 10 employee questions. I mean, these are just massive boosts in efficiency.
And they are not slowing down, not at all. They're launching an AI academy to train their entire workforce, all 67,000 of them. Plus, they're rolling out a full-blown AI-powered financial assistant for customers. This shows they are all in. This is a deep, long-term commitment to this technology, for sure.
Okay, let's take a step back and pull all this together.
We've really looked at 3 different layers of this story, right? You've got the regulator, the ethicist, and the operator.
So that's been the journey we've taken. We started way up at the macro level with the Bank of England setting the safety rules. Then we dropped down to the corporate level where a bank like HSBC turns those rules into a practical playbook. And finally, we zoomed all the way into the micro level at Lloyd's, where specific tools are creating real efficiency and real value. It's a perfect chain reaction, right? From this big, abstract idea all the way down to concrete profit.
But all of this leaves us with one final and maybe the most important question. We've built all these frameworks, all these rules for governance. But as these AI systems get smarter and more autonomous, who is really in control? Is it the regulator? Is it the bank? Or is it the algorithm itself? Something to think about.